Hello and welcome to another video. Today I am going to be talking to you about some recommendations because although we're in June, it is now officially slash of summer, and we also have Summerween, which is in a couple of weeks roughly, and I wanted to give you some recommendations for getting into the vibes, getting into the mood of a slightly spookier summer. Now, before we get into the book recommendations, I would just like to state that I have the prettiest and still summery Summerween t-shirt. Now, this is a extra large, so it's nice and baggy to wear with some leggings, but this is from Stitches, and Stitches have some incredible options for all types of genres when it comes to movies, when it comes to books, series. They go for Gilmore Girls, they go for Taylor Swift. They've got some, I think she's just brought out some for Legally Blonde as well. But her Halloween stuff is always some of my favourite. I have pretty much a wardrobe full. And she picked up on the fact that we have Summerween coming up and that spooky can be all year round. So we have this t-shirt. We also have it available in black. And then there are also two new designs which I am in love with and already have one on the way. But I'm going to try and insert something here so you can see the type of things that she's got coming. There are also some caps available. So if you are taking part in Summerween or any readathons or anything like that, or just fancy a bit of spookiness during summer, then have a look on there. Don't forget to use my code COFFEE10 to get a bit of money off. I will leave the links all down below, and again my code underneath. This is not sponsored. I am just ecstatic about the idea of having Summerween and like spooky but not like full on Halloween stuff just there, and affordable prices too. So yeah, have a look on there and don't forget to use the code. Now we are going on to, I have picked what I have read and what I haven't, but I know that it is quite brutal. These are a collection of slashers to an extent. There's a lot of gore in it, but also bonus points for these because they are also very 80s styled. They are also very 80s vibes, maybe a bit of 90s sprinkled in with a couple of them. So the first one that I'm going to talk to you about, I actually only read recently and I adored everything about it. So the first book that I read recently actually, and I think it gives all the vibes it could possibly give when it comes to 80s/90s. Now, I don't really enjoy pop culture references in books normally, but this, I think it helps set the tone of the book, helps transport you into the time that it is. And it's nothing massive, it's like almost like little nods here and there to the era. That is Mina and the Undead by Amy McCall. Now, from what I can remember, this takes place in a pretend haunted house. It's almost like one of those attractions that if you're on holiday you go to, and they have actors and actresses who basically scare you when you go in. But things do start to go wrong, and they also become a bit more realistic, shall we say. Now, I really enjoyed the fact that this took place in New Orleans because as far as I'm concerned, Where else could you have the fright of your life and still get the peak vibes if it's not New Orleans? This also had me in a chokehold purely based on the fact that the cover looks like an old VHS tape. So you've got Be Kind Rewind, you've got the VHS, YA instead of like the little age rating thing for the videos. Then you've got the side with the VHS, and you've got a little price tag. And I just, honestly, I love it. And I loved the book as well. I love the story, and I do want to continue with the series. I'm hoping that the rest of the series sort of look the same as we go along. But yeah, so this also takes place during summer. So, summer what? Summerween. Now my next one is sort of a mixed bag, because we have Summer Camp for Slasher Victims by Matthew Mercer. This is just incredible. This is camp, summer camp vibes all the way. You've got the camp counselor, you've got the little shorts with the tucked in t-shirts and the caps, and they are surrounded by a lake. All the cabins are wooden and they're doing outdoor stuff, and it's just all fantastic. And the majority of the people who come to this camp are slasher victims. They have experienced, or they have had loved ones who have died due to a slasher, a serial killer. However, some of the counsellors actually haven't. There is also one particular person who hasn't experienced it, but because he was just sort of like a wild child and his parents didn't want him around, he got sent to this camp. But things start to seem a bit weird, because as they are trying to heal through living their lives through being slasher victims, things start to take a twist. And people start to get killed. But we have bonfires. We have all that extra jazz, and it is just, yeah, it's just incredible. This also, for me, if you enjoyed the Fear Street 1983, I think it was. I know it's the second in the Fear Street, which was on Netflix. That gives off pretty much exactly the same vibes as this. So if you enjoyed that, then you'll enjoy this, or the other way around. But it is definitely one where I was like, oh my god. Again, you've got the slide, you've got like the sticker, you've got the edges that would be like on a VHS. Then you've also got the restricted, because this is very gory. It wasn't too much for me, but I do like my books gory, so I would just say just be careful heading into it. If you're not a gore fan, then you might not get on with this so well. There is also a second one which I've only just started, and that is Prom Night for Slasher Victims. I do believe that this is a follow-on from Summer Camp. I believe that it's the survivors who have gone on to school together, and it's their prom night. But again, things start to go wrong. I will give you more updates on that one when I have actually got through it. But it definitely, I feel like it had that 80s vibe still, maybe 90s. I feel like I'm saying vibe a lot, but Now, the next one blew my mind because not only prior to this was I can't read anything, I can't look at a clown, I can't do anything involving a clown. I picked this up and I was like, yes. So we have Clown in the Cornfield. This is amazing, and this was exactly what I was looking for at the time when I was after a horror, but almost like the old stuff. Like, all of these, I think, to an extent, give that 80s style of slasher movie, very much like Scream, very much like Halloween, and Friday the 13th, things like that. Clown in the Cornfield blew my mind. So we have this town where it's quiet, usually. You've got a few wayward strays, the teens, and they are literally just getting ready for the summer, and the cornfields are all ready. There's plenty of mazes to be lost in or murdered in, but there is just something heavy in the air and they're not 100% sure what it is. But this is definitely slasher vibes. I feel like I can't give too much information about this because it really is best that you go in blind with this. As with the others, like, I feel like I'm trying to give like minuscule things, trying to just give you the settings so you could decide if that's where you want to rest your head in for a bit. But I do think that these are better off going in blind. The clown itself, he's not described in full graphic detail, I don't think. So it wasn't enough for me to be like, oh my god. But it's good. It's very good. Again, very gory. Unfortunately, this doesn't really have the VHS type thing, I don't think. But this is also the first in what I believe is now a completed trilogy. At least I'm hoping it's a completed trilogy, because the second one was okay. The third one was a bit of a flop for me. But this first one still holds my heart in its hand. Bloody hand. Then for the final type 80s thing, we have what has been deemed by several people a warm love letter to slasher flicks. We have Heads Will Roll by Josh Winning, and I think that Josh Winning is definitely one of the kings of transporting you back to the 80s, 90s. This is the third book I have of his, and the first one I ever read was Shadow Glass, and that is a mixture of what I believe is like the Labyrinth, Dark Crystal, things like that, and it was just everything. There was talks of the puppets, there was talks of the weirdness that surrounded them, there was a slight supernatural thing to it, but then there was also the gore, and I loved it. So although I haven't read this one yet, the fact that it said slasher flicks, and there is also a headless man with a axe. Cover my face again so it won't it will actually focus. And there's lots of trees, so I'd like to believe that it's going to take place in a forest or something. Let's have a quick read. Willow is in the need of an escape. A former sitcom star, she's being publicly shamed on the internet after posting something she really shouldn't have. She checks into Camp Castaway, an adults-only retreat based in an old campground in the woods. It's the first night and the campers gather round the fire to tell some ghost stories. That's when Willow hears the tale of Knock Knock Nancy, a local urban legend about a witch brutally beheaded in this very woodland. They say her restless spirit knocks on doors late at night. If you answer, she'll take your head. Willow doesn't believe in ghost stories, but the next day a camper has vanished under mysterious circumstances. And then that evening, in her cabin, Willow hears it. Knock, knock, knock. So we're going to be at a cabin, at a camp. Heads will roll. Somebody's going to have their head chopped off. This is everything I want. So I'm really looking forward to getting to this one. So I might actually pick this one up sooner rather than later. So that is big wins for Josh winning, I think. Again, we've not got the exact like VHS style cover, but it is given the sort of worn look around it, which I really like. Now, this may not be a slasher, but it is definitely 80s, 90s style and a VHS looking cover. So I do want to just give an honorary mention to My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. Now, I haven't read this, but I would like to. There's just something about it. I've heard that it's a bit comedic, and I'm not sure how I feel about that. I like my horror to be horror. I don't like horror to be almost laughable. I don't know. But this says, high school sophomores Abby and Gretchen have been best friends since 4th grade. But after an evening of skinny dipping goes disastrously wrong, Gretchen begins to act different. She's moody, she's irritable, and bizarre incidents keep happening whenever she's nearby. Abby's investigation leads her to startling discoveries, and by the time their story reaches its terrifying conclusion, the fate of Abby and Gretchen will be determined by a single question. Is their friendship powerful enough to beat the devil? Like an unholy hybrid of Beaches and The Exorcist, My Best Friend's Exorcism blends teen angst, adolescent drama, unspeakable horrors, and a mix of 80s pop songs into a pulse-pounding supernatural thriller. So I'm really, really hoping that this isn't as comedic as I've heard it is. I don't know whether people have just sort of... I know everybody has different ideas of horror. Comedic horror just isn't horror for me. So I'm really hoping this gives off the right amount. I also feel like this is very Stranger Things looking. But yeah, so I'm excited to read that. So these are my 80s style slasher recommendations for Slasher Summer. And I think that is what I own. However, if you have got any other recommendations, then feel free to leave those in the comments below. I'm going to pop this down because it's heavy. I would also love some recommendations for any slasher movies, because I'm starting to sort of get myself back into the swing of things, and because I am only just managing to watch horror films on my own. So any recommendations for slasher movies as well would be much appreciated. If you have stuck around until now, then thank you very much. It means the world to me. If you have liked this video, then don't forget to hit a thumbs up down below and subscribe. If you haven't already, it means that you get to see more of me and my bookish talking more on your feed. So yeah, hit subscribe and I will see you in the next one. Bye.